Finally, we're diving into it as free agency is literally only 12 days away and the legal tampering window only 10 days away, about a week and a half for both. I'm going to give you my top 30 free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins. Also, we are going to discuss the Miami Dolphins meeting with multiple prospects over the last 24 hours, including one of the top edge players in the draft that I've talked about multiple times on this channel. We'll also discuss Mike McDaniel's seat and whether it's warm or not heading into the regular season. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's going over the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one on this Friday, heading into this weekend where the combine is in full swing. Appreciate all of you taking some time out of your start to the weekend to come through, whether you are on your way home from work, on your way to work, sitting down at home already, in your car, running errands, whatever you're doing, wherever you are. I hope you're having a fantastic and blessed day. Man, I'm sorry for being a tad tardy. It's just today has been a nightmare for the last 3 hours dealing with both PayPal and Patreon. It has been an absolute issue. So, man, but I appreciate all you for coming through either way. Smash that like button as you come through. Do me the favor. We are literally not too far away. We are real close from passing 15,000. Listen, I appreciate all of you for coming through. And let's get there, man. Let's get there before the draft. That'll be huge. So, shout out to everyone already showing up in the chat, as we already got about 100 of you in the room. Like I said, do me the favor, especially for a video like this. Like, a lot of time, a lot of effort went into this type of video, okay? You know, a lot of film was watched, especially when you got offensive linemen. You know, I see Rome Gray having a hope for names on the list. I'll give you one thing. One guy on your list made my list. We got too many needs. We got so many needs. And there are some top guys I think you could get at good prices. So, listen, I'm going to need your help. And also, hey, if you're feeling like donating, I'd appreciate it on a type of video, because over the last few months of the season, the NFL started hitting channels for all 22 a little bit more regularly. So we'll see how that all works out. And we know how it gets into the big boards when, you know, we got the all 22 get struck when I do college. You know, some of those colleges, you know, they're all 22. They strike me and demonetize some of my videos. So, hey, if you are open to supporting the channel, I would appreciate it on film videos like this, because people be wilding out here, not letting me show all 22 when all it is sharing information. And it's, well, I know the college ain't open to the public. And listen, that's a rant I got to say. Listen, okay, I got to say this. I got to say this, okay? I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to gatekeep. I want to be very clear. I ain't trying to gatekeep, so I don't want anyone bringing that on me, right? First of all, before we do, shout out to the homie, the god of the mod squad, Rhino Sith, coming through, and he gifted 5 Phinside The NFL memberships, 1 to M-Cord, 1 to J-Bands, 1 to KC, 1 to Jeffrey Ward, and 1 to SoFlo Soul. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, sir. He says, love you all. Love you, Brother Reason. Best community out there. Appreciate you, sir. One of the day ones who's been supporting the channel. But I gotta revert back here for a minute. And I'm not trying to gatekeep. I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to gatekeep. By the way, M-Cord, J-Bands, KC, Jeffrey Ward, SoFlo Soul, you not only have access to exclusive emojis in the chat right now, go check the community chat. Go check the community board when we're done here, the community tab under Phinside The NFL YouTube, and you're going to have access to all the latest inside info. So appreciate, shout out to Rhino again. But listen, I'm not trying to gatekeep here, but I got to get this off my chest because I see people out here. Oh, I've watched the film. Oh, oh, I really, from what I watched the film and this. Listen, okay? I'm going to say this. I want everyone to have fun with the draft season. I want everyone to enjoy their prospects. I don't care if people talk about prospects. What I care about is when I see people out here who speak on prospects in an authoritative manner. That's my issue, and it's been an issue for years. I've said it before, but I got to reiterate it. It's my biggest pet peeve of draft season. And I say this even with my work. What really, really grinds my gears is when you have people, they read the Mel Kiper articles or watch the segments. They read the Daniel Jeremiah articles in the segments. Or they go Google, scouting reports. Or they go YouTube, player highlights. I can make a highlight package of anyone on YouTube and make them look great, okay? And then all of a sudden, they become authority. And the whole thing is they're taking other people's opinions and they're formulating their own off others' opinions. Even when I do my work, when I do my draft work, I've said this for years. All I'm doing is giving you the information. What I see on tape, it usually hits, but what I see on tape, what that prospect is, how they fit, etc., etc. I always say, go do the research yourself. Go watch the film yourself. Go try write an evaluation yourself. Go do the work. And I'm not saying that in a condescending or sarcastic way. I'm saying go do it, right? If you're that interested, I'm encouraging you to go do it. So do you see the same things I see? What do you see that I don't see? Blah, 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 right? And then we can have an actual conversation. My issue is that people go out here and they don't have access to the film. See, that's the thing. You know how many times I scroll past Twitter? And it only got to be, I see it in Dolphins Twitter and I see it now. Oh, I've watched the film. Oh, I saw the film on this guy. What film, bro? I know the people I'm connected to have access to literally vaults of all 22. What film do we have the access to? It's just, and then on top of that, I know these people have never written of an evaluation in their life. But, well, the film tells me this, the film tells me that. It's just like, can we please stop acting like something we aren't in this community? Just because you want to fit in, just because you want to sound smart, just because whatever the case may be. Enjoy the prospects. And if you're actually putting in the work, knock yourself out. But putting in the work, first of all, you know what I say, all 22 or nothing. You see a lot more on all 22 than you do on the broadcast view. I brought this up multiple times, especially when you're going to, break down defensive players on the back end. So, I know these people don't have this access to it, but I want everyone to enjoy the draft season. But I don't want people out here fronting like something they're not. It's very. You know why? There's a couple reasons why I don't like it. Why? Well, number one, why are we lying to all these people on social media or in this community and acting like something we're not when it's okay to admit I don't have access to that? All that jazz. It's okay. No one's going to think less of you. People are going to think less of you when we know you're lying. All right? So that's number one. I just don't get why we got to act like there's something we're not, man. I don't get it. I don't get it. I guess because, you know, hey, I may be from the up north, but where I'm from, where I grew up, what's instilled in me, I don't move like that. So I just, you know, I see so much fugaziness in this community, and I just scratch my head, and I'm like, wow, these people like move like that, you know, like, you know, it's ridiculous. So I don't know, man. And it all goes back to, like, you know, I remember people, and really when it really started to bubble for me was when people were arguing with me. You know how many people used to argue with me about Penei Sewell making it at right tackle? Do you know how many people, whether on YouTube in my chat comments or on X, would be, oh, Penei, he's a left tackle. And I'm like, first of all, he came to Oregon as a left guard at the age of 18. He didn't even come there as a left tackle. Second of all, he played right tackle for more than a season in high school. Like, if people remember, I was bringing up Penei Sewell high school. I found Penei Sewell high school film. Okay? If you remember that period of time, I played it on this channel and I posted it on X. I was literally posting Penei Sewell high school film because I had people arguing me, and I know they were listening to the Mel Kipers or the Daniel Jeremiahs or the Matt Millers, and that's fine to listen to them. But to act like your opinion is the gold standard when it's literally just ripped off someone you've heard or watched, that doesn't compute. Maybe put in the work, and if you're not going to put in the work and write the evaluations and find a way to get the film, maybe just fall back and enjoy the process more instead of trying to be opinionated on the process. Right? Like, I got no problem with people saying, hey, I looked up some highlights on YouTube, or I watched these games of this prospect, you know, on TV, or I found them on YouTube, and I liked what I saw, and this is what I liked what I saw. I got no problem with that. But it's the people who are there, I put on the film. No. Let's stop acting like you got access to archives, okay? I've been called out on this before. Someone called this out on X, all right? Yeah, if you want to know who exactly was, if you go back, you can look it up. What was that? You know, there's the I don't know. There's some website that these people used to write with, and they a couple of them tried to call me out, and I posted screenshots of my library, like. You know, it was the Finmaniacs crew back in the day when Sarny was a part of them. They got caught lying about me behind my back by someone on X. They were telling people behind the scenes on X, oh, Reason doesn't really watch film. Reason doesn't have X film. Someone said, hey, they told me this. They put this out on Twitter, like public. Hey, they told me, and they tagged them, you don't watch film. And I posted screenshots of my library at the time, which is now bigger, but I posted like screenshots of my library to show the vastness of it, which is, again, way bigger now as I've gotten even more further entrenched into the community. And then the person tagged them again and said, hey, why did you tell me this guy, that Reason doesn't watch film when it's clear? And I mean, my track record now, this is back in like 2021, I want to say. My track record now, as we sit here in 2024, it can't be questioned. Everyone knows if anyone watches film in this community, it's this guy, all right? So, listen, my whole point is stop acting like draft aficionados when just be fans of the process. I got no problem with people fanning for players or liking players based on highlights they've seen, but I need people to stop acting like they're authorities when I know they don't write evaluations and I know they don't have the access to all the film. Right? Because when I watch, guys, like if you go back and you watch my big boards, you'll see clips from not just the season that just happened, but regularly you'll see clips from, you know, if the player came out last year, right? 2023 draft. You'll see clips from 2022, clips from 2021. I don't just stick to, you know, recent clips. I will go back because I watch the film, because I deep dive on these players. Because, you know, being accurate for you, the fan base, is very important to me because that makes y'all informed. And my goal since I started this channel was to have the most informed fan base. So appreciate all you for supporting. Now, flipping over on the other side, Tyreek Hill, if you didn't see, we talked about him a couple of days ago about how he could be a distraction and all this kind of jazz. My whole thing, and I want to add something actually before we get into Tyreek Hill. Another issue I have is people, and you don't even have to talk about me. People will go up, and because of what they heard Mel Kiper or Daniel Jeremiah say, they will. I see it in the draft community because I'm in the Dolphins community, but I'm connected to the draft community on Twitter as well. And I will see people who don't put in the work. They'll go argue with the guys who are some of the best independent sources on X, on Twitter, for the draft as a total, not team bias. Like, they don't cover the Dolphins like I do or a specific team. Like, just guys who just do the draft year round. Like, literally when May starts, they've, they're, because a lot of the guys in the draft community on X, they're already watching prospects from next year. All their stuff is done for this year, and it's been done, right? They're already on to next year's class. That's how much work these guys put in, right? And I'm watching prospects here and there but these guys are from next year. But these guys are watching full on, 50 players at each position right now, okay? And we're in March, we're 13 months before next year's draft. And I will see people go up there and argue them. And it's fine and healthy to have a debate if you do the work yourself. If you don't do the work yourself, and again, are formulating your opinions of other people's opinions, and then arguing with people who actually do the work, to me, that's very insulting. Very, very insulting to those people that put in that kind of work. And I see it all the time. I see it regularly. And I think it's insulting. And I'm not even talking about me right now. I'm talking about, I see people in the draft community who do this shit 365 days a year. And listen, it's okay to say, hey, I don't agree with you off what I saw, whatever. But these people start talking like they're authorities, and they saw a couple things on YouTube. All I'm saying is respect the people that put the work in. Don't use other people's opinions to formulate your own. That's all I'm saying. That's that, man. Anyways, let's go. Let's go back to Tyreek here. Tyreek, if you guys didn't see the whole thing with that model and him being a distraction and all this jazz, well, now he's basically countering and saying she tripped over a dog when they were running drills, blah, 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 blah. It's Mr. Success says, first of all, Rhino says, reason's broken. He loves watching film when I want to relax and then want to go play a game and watch a show movie. It's true. Mr. Success is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Dumbasses fully believing they're geniuses. There you go. So, that's a good one, Mr. Success. So, this thing now, it's turning into the biggest he said, she said. Come on, right? Now she broke her leg tripping over a dog, right? Against this Sophie Hall chick. All right, again, I'm just updating you guys on this because we talked about it. But other than that, give me a break. I could care less. All right, I could care less. Let's be honest here. All right, let's get into some Combine news because guess what? A kid I've been talking about on this channel for quite some time. Dolphins met with him. UCLA edge rusher Latu has met with the Miami Dolphins. Oh, when I saw this news last night break, right? This was 5:23. I was already live yesterday, so I didn't see this till I was done. Oh, man. I like Jared Verse. I like Dallas Turner's 40 time and everything yesterday. Dallas Turner's not making it out of the top 10. Let's be honest with ourselves. But we've had Latu. Speaking of Daniel Jeremiah, those people who follow them, right? Latu, he's been mocked to us by some people. That would be a steal. That would be an absolute steal. Last year, 21.5 tackles for a loss, 13 sacks. 2 picks, forced 2 fumbles, 49 tackles in 12 games. Man, you're talking about a guy I like. A guy I like who I think can move around on that front. He's got the power. He's got a good set of pass rush moves. You know, man, I'm a fan, and people know. He's got club in hands. Everyone knows I'm a fan, and I think when you look at him, and you look at his measurements, right? I'm gonna tell you this: he can continue to grow at the next level. I got no problem with continuing to invest in him because I think he'll be able to set the edge at the next level. I'm a fan. I am a big fan of Latu, and that gets me excited that we're meeting with him. 6'5", 259. And you look at what he did, and you look at his RAS, man, that's an exciting player right there. When you look at Latu, that's that at 21, that's a game changer. That is a game changer, ladies and gentlemen, at 21. All right? That is a man. And what does it go back to? Why do I like him? Right? Why am I a fan? Right? Everyone knows this. I'm going to explain it. And here, I'll bring up this for you so you guys can see this right now. But why am I a fan? Right? You guys already know why I'm a fan. I mean, there's his RAS right there for you. 6'4.5", 259. You saw ran a 4.64 40. Those are projected splits, the 20 and the 10. But I mean, you're looking at an elite composite grade, a 9.19 unofficial. And that would rank him, I believe, like 134th. I want to say, ever between all guys who have ever done it. All right. That's 134th out of 1,637 defensive ends that have had their RAS score calculated since 1987. He's a beast. He is a monster. And, at 21, when you talk about the fact that we don't even have Cameron Good, when you talk about the fact that Andrew Van Ginkel's probably pricing himself out, when you talk about the fact, as we continue on here, let's be real, when you talk about the fact that Chubb, I don't want to restructure Chubb. People know this because I want to move off of Chubb in a year. I want to move off of Chubb when, or 2 years, when that Jalen Phillips contract hits after that 5th-year option, right? Because his 5th-year option is only going to be about 13, 14 million, so it's not going to be that bad. But I want to move off of that. And what do I want to do? I want Jalen Phillips to replace that Chubb contract and a solid rookie to replace that Phillips contract so we can get production output higher than the value we're paying. And you look at guys like Jared Verse, you look at guys like Latu, they fit that. They fit that bill if they're there at 21. Listen, is it the Jackson Powers Johnson pick this fan base wants? No. Is it a sexy pick if a receiver is on the board, one of the top 4 receivers on the board? No. But it's understandable if they do it. It's understandable. It makes sense. It makes sense if they do it. So I'm excited about Latu. He's a beast. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. He is a beast. And, man, the thought of a guy like that at 21, very intriguing. Very, very intriguing. The options are just so open for this team. The options are just so open for this team. It's very, very impressive that just how open our options are right now. So, I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan of that potential selection. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like that's a potential big move. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, again, I know people are gonna lose their mind if something like that happened. They're gonna lose their mind if we take. It's gonna be what Cam Smith was. Everyone was shocked when we took. Everyone was absolutely super shocked when we took Cam Smith. Right? They weren't fans of the Cam Smith, at all. They weren't fans at all. So, we'll see. We'll see, but I mean, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. Again, so many, so many, just so many options for this team. So many. Just don't get it wrong, please. Oh my God. Please, for the love of God. Continuing on with the combine meetings, a name some of y'all might be familiar with. Check out who visited with the Miami Dolphins. Frank Gore Jr. from Southern Miss. We all know what time it is here. We all remember what Daddy did in the NFL and his stint with the Miami Dolphins. First of all, I'm going to say shout out to Frank Gore. This is a guy who, when you look at what he's done on the field, back to back 1,100 plus yard seasons. He had 1,382 yards 2022, 1,131 yards in 2023, 10 touchdowns this year, 9 touchdowns last year, averaging 4.9 yards per carry this year, 6.1 yards per carry as a sophomore. You're talking about a guy who, around 5'10", 200 pounds. He gets low, and he's got a good center of gravity, good contact balance. He can run it. He can run the football, right? He's got a great build to his body. He looks like he could take the beating of the NFL at the next level. Pause. And, he can also catch the football out of the backfield too. He offers you a lot. So, I think too, he's shiftier than people want to give it credit for, right? Like, he's a power runner, but he's sneaky shifty too. He's sneaky shifty. Now, what's the idea here? You know what I mean? Like, do we truly believe Frank Gore is going to be on the board in round 5? Now, I know you want to meet with a bunch of prospects. It's really the ones to really try and pay attention and get a hold of are the private, right, workout sessions and stuff like that. But, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a need right now for the Miami Dolphins. Right? I'm just not going to sit here and say that. So, I don't know what the fit here is. I mean, you tell me what the fit is. I don't know. I don't see it. In terms of I'm not talking about the player fit. I'm talking about the draft fit. But hey, do your due diligence. Maybe there's someone you fall in love with in the draft. I mean, I like it. And what I like about this is, you're going outside. I mean, he could be there in the 5th round or as a UDFA. It all depends on where you're gonna have him. I'm a little bit higher on him than it seems some people are. Is he a top 10 back in this class? You have a problem. I have a problem stretching that. But I will say he's a top 15 back in this class. So wherever that lands, I don't know. Is there going to be a run on running backs? I don't know. But are we really going to, when we only have a pick in the first, second, fifth, and beyond, are we really going to start wasting picks on a running back right now? Maybe they're hoping he slides out as a UDFA. Maybe. Maybe that's what happens, right? Maybe that's what happens, that they're hoping he slides out as a UDFA. That could be a possibility too. But, are we really going to take him in the 5th round when we hadn't picked for the 3rd and the 4th, and we got holes? We got holes and depth needs right now. You got Chris Brooks, Raheem Mostert, and Devin Achane on the roster right now. Unless, it's a Derrick Henry who trying to change his culture up and is a proven commodity. What are we saying here with, taking a running back? I'm not down with that. So, yeah. And then another final interesting one here. He makes a little more sense when you think about this. And he makes a little bit more sense. Texas A&M receiver Ainias Smith, who has a real close relationship with Devin Achane, he confirmed that in a meeting with the Dolphins, he had a meeting with the Dolphins, and in that meeting, wide receiver coach Wes Welker told him that he reminds him of himself. Now, when you look at this kid, he's going to run in the 4.4s, I think, but we're talking about a 5'10", 190-pound guy. He's had 28 games at Texas. Sorry, I apologize. He's had, he's had what? He's had only like 43, catches for 564 yards and 6 touchdowns, 6 receiving touchdowns, as a sophomore. And he can also run the ball. They used him 49 times as a sophomore running the ball, and he gained 293 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, when you look at, his usage has kind of like, it's gone up and down, right? So, because if you look at it in 2023, it's dipped. So, anyways, when you remember, as a sophomore in 2020, he had 43 receptions for 564. In 2021, right? Because we're talking about, he's a senior. We're talking about a guy who's been at Texas A&M for 5 years. So, when he was a sophomore, 43 receptions, 564 yards. Then he jumped to 47 receptions, 509 yards. But then this past season, he had 53 receptions. His most had 795 yards, but only had 2 touchdowns. Now, as a sophomore and a junior, he had 6 touchdowns. Since then, his last 2 seasons, he's only had 2 touchdowns each. Again, I don't see this being a, to me, this isn't a high selection type of move. This guy, this is hoping, this is a potential UDFA move. Right? Like, that's what I view Ainias Smith as. That's a UDFA move. That's not you don't waste a, 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick on him. Now, hey, you might waste that 7th round pick because you just get UDFAs. That's how you get them. Right? So, to make sure if you got UDFAs you really like, you take them in the 7th to make sure you got them locked down, right? So, there you go. But that's who we've met. I mean, we've met with a few players, and Latu, to me, it's one of the top ones in this class at his position, and I like that we met him. Still have the word on the street is we have not met with Brock Bowers yet, so we'll see how that goes. Scorpion King says, thanks for the hard work reason, $10 donation. Appreciate you, Scorpion King. Thank you for supporting the channel. 1017 Man donates 20, and he says, best Dolphins content, bar none. Appreciate you, sir. You've been a member for a long time. You supported the channel for quite some time. Appreciate you, Rhino and Scorpion King. All three of you support this channel. You're all channel members, and you all hold me down, and I appreciate you. And even those of you that can't financially support the channel, please do me the favor, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. There's over 250 of you in the room right now. Let's hop into, I've been waiting for it. You know what's coming down, right? You know what we came here for, right? We came here for my top 30 free agents. Well, let's hop into it because a lot of work went into this. So I appreciate the donations because, again, NFL.com, they've kind of become, not the nicest, not the most gentile, conglomerate when it comes to using all 22. They're turning into the colleges a little bit, right? So appreciate all of you for coming through and holding me down like that. So let's get into this. We got 30. Every year I do 25. We got so many needs. I did 30, and I still feel like I could have gone to 50. Tells you where we're at. So here's 11 to 30 for y'all. Number 30. Okay, I put Derrick Henry. He's the only running back on the list. You know why? Because we don't need a running back, but I've stressed him. I like the need. Changes the offense to a more smash mouth culture. Over the last 2 years, his 2,705 yards are the most in the NFL. So is his 25 rush touchdowns. He's number 2 in rush yards per game at 82, behind only Nick Chubb. And his 4.3 yards per carry is 7th best amongst running backs, and he has 1,373 yards after contact in the last 2 seasons. 803 2 seasons ago, and 570 this past season. PFF and Spot Track project him to average between 10 to 10.3 million per year, but he'll need to be much lower than that to be on Miami's radar. Like, you need to be in the $6 to $7 million range, sir. And he does seem like a perfect fit for the Ravens when you look at it. Like, let's be honest, right? Number 29. Here you go, Rome, just for you. Maurice Hurst, defensive tackle. Biggest issue with him, durability. It's a big concern. That's why he's so low on this list. But when he's healthy, he can be downright dominant at times. Can disrupt the pocket really well. Show the ability to impact the run game. The most appealing aspect is he's a cheap player with a potential high reward if he can stay healthy. With him most likely signing a 1-year deal with just over $1 million guaranteed probably. Number 28, I got Ronald Darby here. Has only allowed 1 touchdown in coverage over the last few years while being targeted 80 times. Played in Baltimore last year, giving Weaver some familiarity with him and his usage. Took big snaps for the Ravens in the divisional round of the conference championship. Made only $1.7 million last year, and PFF projects him to cost around $2.5, making him another low-cost, potential high reward as a veteran boundary backup to Cam Smith, who is going to be afforded every opportunity to start, right? Now, continuing on at 27, I got John Simpson. Still only 26 years old. Comes from one of the most run-dominant teams in the NFL in Baltimore. Word is they want to incorporate more gap runs in Miami, and I think Simpson at left guard would be the perfect fit if you don't bring back Isaiah Wynn. Has given up only 5 sacks in 4 years. This is a powerful behemoth of a man at 6'4", 330. Was only making $1.01 million a year with the Ravens. PFF projects his market is going to be around $5.25 million. So if you're not trying to break the bank on the interior, John Simpson makes a lot of sense. 26, I got Hunter Henry. I think in this offense, Hunter Henry can get back to the level he was ascending towards when he left the Chargers to sign a 3-year, $37.5 million contract with the Patriots. From 2019 to 2021, he had 3 straight 600-plus yard seasons and 15 touchdowns, though he did score 6 last year. He suffered from average quarterback play, bad coaching, and overall a poor offense. Between PFF and Spot Track, his projected cost is between $6 and $7.5 million a year, which I think he can outplay while he's also a willing and decent blocker. At 25, I have Nick Needham. Right, you're going to see some Dolphins on this list, especially when you get to the top 10. You got team and scheme familiarity. People forget how good he's been in the slot and how reliable he's been when he's tasked with boundary duties while he's also been cross-trained a bit at safety. Bottom line is he fits the hybrid aspect of Weaver's defense. Health has obviously been a factor, but I expect him to probably be in the best shape he's been in since his injury, right? That's what I expect of him, at least. And that was since 2021. I think he's going to be in his best shape since 2021 when he has best year. And he was trending upwards before injuries began to pile up. Another cheap, potentially high reward type of deal, as he'll probably be forced to take a deal similar to the 1 year, $1.825 million deal he signed last year. At number 24, hey, if things don't work out with Christian Wilkins, if you don't get a deal done, but you want a piece to complement Zach Seiler, Grover Stewart may be a good answer. Like Wilkins before the season, he's never been the largest pressure getter or pocket disruptor, but his season high was being 22 pressures. He's done that twice. He's also never had the snap allocations Wilkins has had, the past 2 seasons, because Wilkins, the last 2 years has had 968 snaps and 1,022. Stewart's career high is about 781, and he had that in 2022. He'll take on double teams and impact the run game, served a 6-game suspension in 2023 for performance-enhancing drugs. Though he won't cost as much as Wilkins, he still may cost a little bit more than Seiler, as PFF estimates the annual average to be around $11 million a year. And reports of in Indianapolis are that his contract could get as high as $14 million a year. So he's going to cost a little bit of money. Shout out to Michelle Migliardi. She comes through and says, so glad I found your channel, Reason. I love the content. Appreciate you, Michelle. And I also want to shout out Fake Spike 94 son Grayson for his $5 donation yesterday. Appreciate all of you for supporting the channel the way you do, especially on videos like this where a lot of work gets put in. Number 23 on my list is Tyler Boyd. Now, Tyler Boyd, for me, he's perfect. He's a proven slot option who has played the wide receiver 3 role to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, making an easy transition behind Tyreek and Waddle. Dependable receiver who can block, which we know is massively coveted in this offense, and again, maybe close to as ideal as a fit as you could seek out for the wide receiver slot role in this offense. He's expected to be around $8.7 million per year. You're going to have to pay. But Tyler Boyd is that dude. He's a perfect option. Number 22, Isaiah Wynn. We saw how dominant he was in the run game last year with the Dolphins, and he was getting better as a pass protector as the year went on. Raheem Mostert didn't have a 100-plus yard rushing game after he went down. If he can stay healthy, a second year in this offense at left guard, we could see massive growth for Isaiah Wynn. It's another low-risk, potentially high-reward deal. I don't see him commanding more than the $2.3 million deal he signed last year. In fact, it may be even under $2 million because it was another year he couldn't stay healthy. 21, sleeper, Marcus Davenport. Hasn't played a full season yet, with 15 games being the most he's played, and that was in 2022. But we need a rotational piece to get us through the portion of the schedule where Miami's short Chubb and Phillips, whether, it be both at the same time or just one or the other at the same time. So we wouldn't be tasking him with being a full-time starter. He has 23.5 sacks, 201 pressures, 27 tackles for a loss, 7 forced fumbles, and 90 run stops in 67 games. I don't think he sees anything near the $13 million a year with the $10 million guaranteed he just had with Minnesota. PFF projects him to be around $5 million a year, which if he's in around that at $5 million a year, sign me up. Are you kidding me? Sign me up. At 20, Jeff Okudah. We're talking about a former third-round overall pick pedigree, coming off his best year after being traded to Atlanta, where he didn't allow a touchdown in coverage and had his lowest passer rating allowed, which was 92.9. Fits on the boundary in man, but has shown some growth in zone. Would be perfect to complement for Cam Smith or be a rotational piece for the boundary. Spot Track projects his contract to be around $14.7 million annual average, but I don't see that. I see it coming in around more $7 or $8 million. He hasn't done enough to gain 14 to 15 million, I don't think. I don't see it going that large. Number 19, Noah Fant. A lot of upside, still only 26, gets that. He could be a sleeper that pays off huge. He's never had a QB the level of Tua Tagovailoa, though he posted 600-plus yard seasons in Denver with the likes of Teddy Bridgewater and has had Geno Smith the last few years. Offers you something after the catch that no one currently does in Miami's tight end room, and he's a decent blocker in the run and pass game. PFF projects him to average around $8 million per year, but that might be a bit high as he's coming off lower production in Seattle than he had in Denver, while the Seahawks signed him to a 4-year deal at $12.59 million total with $9.53 million guaranteed. I see him more as a $5 to $6 million a year investment. So, Noah Fant, I like that. That's a sneaky little pick there. At number 18, I got Damian Lewis. Another player Seattle is letting walk, and a player, if you remember back to the 2020 draft, I was really high on him coming out of LSU where he protected Burrow. He'd be a home run signing at left guard for the Dolphins. Could only imagine the levels he could reach under Butch Barry and Mike McDaniel's tutelage, as he's proven to be efficient in both zone and gap concepts. Well, he's still 3 years away from 30. Spot Track projects him at $7.4 million a year. PFF projects him at about $10.5 million per year. If you can fall in that $8 or $9 million range, sign me up. Right in between those projections. 17, another guy I quietly like, Darnell Mooney. I think this is another slot option for the Dolphins. Mooney could absolutely feast with Tyreek and Waddle drawing coverage. He's a guy who's had a few drops, but he's suffered far more from inconsistent quarterback play thanks to the likes of Justin Fields and Tyler Badgett than he has from drops. Had 1,055 yards in 2021 on 81 receptions off 134 targets. Runs a 4.38 40. Problem is, again, his usage has dipped because of bad quarterback play. He's only had 113 targets over the last 2 years, but it isn't for a lack of getting open. Spot Track projects him around $10.4 million a year. PFF projects him around $9 million a year. You can fall in at that $8 million range. I like that. He would be nice. He would be nice. 16, Cameron Curl, safety, the perfect complementary piece to Javon Holland. I think Curl can play up in the box, on the perch, in the slot, out wide. He's a Swiss Army knife and could allow so much versatility with impact between him and Holland under Weaver that it would almost be unfair to opposing quarterbacks, I think. He's not the ball hawk Holland is, but he can defend the run, get pressure when he's sent, and has allowed a passer rating below 90 in 2 of his 4 seasons and can rack up the tackles. PFF projects him at about $12.5 million a year. Spot Track projects him at $14.4 million a year, which is why I have him so low on the list, because I don't see Miami committing that much money to a safety, even if he is a perfect fit, especially with having to get a deal done with Javon Holland. At 15, I got Patrick Queen, a favorite amongst Dolphin fans to follow Anthony Weaver to Miami. Queen is coming off a season where he posted a career high in tackles at 133, has 108 run stops over the last 2 seasons, and has posted the lowest passer ratings when targeted of his career the last 2 seasons as well, of 96.3 in 2022 and 96.6 in 2023. Patrick Queen also offers you pass rush ability off the ball, as he has 8.5 sacks and 48 pressures over the last 2 years. The reason why he's 15 on this list is because PFF projects him to cost $18.13 million a year, and Spot Track projects him to cost $18.5 million a year. He ain't coming in at that. I think he's just going to be too rich. Yes, would he be great to pair alongside David Long if you moved off Jerome Baker? Sure. But that's real rich. That is real rich, and I don't see that happening. 14, I got Aaron Brewer. He's shown the versatility since joining the Titans as a UDFA, getting considerable snaps at left guard and taking over the starter center spot this past season in Tennessee. Perfect fit for the outside zone scheme in Miami. Has the athleticism to get to the second level quick. And is going to continue to get better as he settles in at center while still being only 26. He has given up 70 pressures and 10 sacks over the last 2 years. But again, he's been shifting between left guard and center. Spot Track projects him at $5.2 million per year. PFF projects him at about $6.67 million per year. Low cost option with potentially high ceiling. We saw the magic that McDaniel and crew have worked with Connor since his shift to center. You know, Aaron Brewer's another one where he could have a high ceiling with this staff. 13, a guy I really like, my top wide receiver, Curtis Samuel. I think this would be a home run wide receiver 3 option for the Miami Dolphins. He's a versatile type of receiver who can line up in the backfield, on the boundary or in the slot. Still only 27, has very good hands, ran a 4.3 140, separates on the field, has posted back-to-back 600-plus yard seasons and 4 receiving touchdown seasons with not even getting 90 targets in either year. While he's dealt with a quarterback carousel in Washington, and he's had to compete with guys like Terry McLaurin for targets. PFF projects him at $9 million a year. Spot Track projects him at $11.5 million per year. And if it's close to that $9 million a year number, I'd be all over it. I'd be all over it. All over it. Number 12, Jadeveon Clowney. Could the Dolphins finally land the player they've chased multiple times in free agency due to Anthony Weaver's arrival in Miami and familiarity with Clowney? He's coming off arguably his best year as he set a career high in pressures with 78, tied his career high in sacks with 9.5. Right? He had 9.5 in 2017 as well. Posted his 4th highest tackle total, 43, while his 28 run stops were the 5th highest of his career, all at the age of 30 going on 31. Spot Track projects him at $7.2 million per year. PFF projects him at $9 million per year. And I think, you know, between $7 and $9 million falls more in line with, I think, ABG's value right now, but ABG values himself higher. And he'd be a perfect 3rd rotational option and holdover until both Phillips and Chubb are healthy again. Number 11, and this is becoming more realistic at a right guard. If Robert Hunt isn't returning, this is a name I've been preaching on a short-term deal. He's 33. That's why I preached the 3rd-year the short-term deal. And he's playing some good ball coming off the Ravens, having one of the better interior offensive lines in the run game last season. He's given up more than 22 pressures once in the last 6 years and more than 20 pressures once in the last 3 years. He signed a 3-year deal worth $22.5 million at about $7.5 million per year with the Ravens in his last deal. But given his age, I expect him to be more in the $5 million range, which would be a steal as a 1-year holdover. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into the top 10. And let's go ahead and get into this top 10 that has all 22 for your viewing pleasure. So at 10, Geno Stone. Like Clowney, comes with scheme familiarity, while also allowing Javon Holland to be used by Weaver like Kyle Hamilton was in the Ravens defense. Played 1,000 snaps for the first time in his career due to the constant 3 safety usage by the Ravens, and was able to blossom as a ball hawk. Picked off 7 balls, and that led the position while allowing 2 touchdowns in coverage and a 53.3 NFL passer rating when targeted. Yeah, he can fall victim to poor tackling because he's looking to take a ball carrier out of his cleats, which he most definitely can. Just ask Michael Pittman Jr. or Justin Herbert. Has a career missed tackle percentage of 18.8% and missed 21% last year when his usage spiked. He's not really a pressure getter and only had 159 snaps in the box with 13 defensive stops last year, though in 2022 he had 9 stops on only 450 snaps. He's projected to cost $6.5 million a year by PFF and $7.2 million a year by Spot Track, which I think would be a fantastic deal. You're talking about between $6.5 to $7.2 million a year. Lock him up. Lock him up if you can't get a deal done with another guy on this list. At number 9, Andre James, a guy I've been reporting for months that they're interested in. His movement skills, quick feet and anchor, and ability to get to the second level make him an ideal fit for McDaniel's outside zone scheme, where he's coming off the best year of his career. Again, I reported a while ago on Patreon and for channel members only that the Dolphins are highly interested in him. He's only allowed more than 20 pressures in one season, and that was 2022, over his last 3 years as a Raiders starter. So he gets it done, and he's dependable. Logged 3,143 snaps over the last 3 years, and 1,216 snaps in his first year as a starting center. PFF projects him around $9 million a year, and that's, I think, more in line with what they want to pay as opposed to what Connor Williams might be asking for. But I like this move. Number 8, Frankie Latu. Back in October on Fin Too Deep with Neil Driscoll, Latu was one of my top trade deadline targets. And if the Dolphins move off Jerome Baker, he would be a great pairing for David Long. He's really blossomed the last few years as he's jumped from 250 snaps in 2020 and 249 snaps in 2021 between the Jets and the Panthers to 941 in 2022 with Carolina and 989 last year in 2023 with Carolina. The results have been staggering as he had 111 tackles in 2022, 125 tackles in 2023, along with 12 and a half sacks over the last 2 years, 43 pressures in the past 2 years, 9 passes defense in that time, and 3 forced fumbles. He's stout against the run, but does struggle a bit in coverage. PFF projects him at $10 million a year. Spot Track projects him at $11.2 million a year. And man, he would be an absolute perfect addition if you are moving off Jerome Baker. What can I say? Number 7, bring back your own Deshaun Elliott. Scheme and team familiarity. He's also was with the Ravens in 2021, so Weaver's familiar with him as well. Already showed high upside. So, pairing with Holland, displayed good range, was a pretty freaking reliable tackler too. Has to try and stay healthy as he hasn't played a full season since 2020, but he's trending the right way. He played 15 games last year, and that was the most he's played since 2020. Had 1 interception against the Bills that you'll see in this highlight clip, and 6 pass breakups last year, but you'd like to see him allow less yards after the catch, as the 114 he allowed last year was the most of his career. PFF projects him at about $4 million per year, and it makes sense because he definitely outproduced his $1.77 million a year price tag with the Ravens last year. I mean, you look at a guy who you noticed when he was out of the lineup, in and out of the lineup. So I'm a fan of Deshaun Elliott. I think, again, another low cost that makes sense that we've seen produce in this defense. Bring him back. It makes sense. So, moving on with another Dolphin here, Andrew Van Ginkel. He's really emerged as a perfect rotational pass rusher along Phillips and Chubb. That said, he's decent against the run in terms of setting the edge. We all saw how that inside linebacker experience didn't quite work out as hoped, So, played 727 snaps. That was the second highest of his career. He had 801 in 2021. But it would have been higher, but obviously injury stopped that. But yet he tallied a career high in sacks with 6. Looked real good in coverage this past season. He had 8 passes defended. That was the most of his career. Had an INT, right? With a return for a touchdown. And he's had an INT in each of the past 2 years. And he had a 53.4 passer rating when targeted. PFF projects him at $6.5 million per year. And I think if that were the case, the deal would already be done with him. I think that number is lower than what his camp expects and wants on the open market. I think you're closer around $10 million is what I think it is. So, number 5, Michael Onwenu. Can fit multiple interior needs right now at a high level. He can play left guard. He can play right guard. You're going to see nothing but right guard clips here. While offering you the ability to play right tackle if anything happens to Austin Jackson. That's where he was kicked out this past year. Absolute brute force, a reliant anchor, has vice grip like strong hands, isn't the fastest guy, but he can mirror well enough against athletic defenders and move mountains against power rushers. He allowed 23 pressures this past season, but hadn't allowed more than 14 in a single season for 3 straight years prior to that, as he's a great pass blocker whether he's kicked inside or out. Open holes regularly, is efficient on gap or zone runs, and again, can do it all inside or out. Does he get paid as a guard or as a tackle? PFF projects him at about $14.5 million per year. Spot Track projects him at about $13.6 million a year. Again, because of his flexibility inside and as an insurance policy for Austin Jackson, he's honestly worth $13 to $14 million for me. Number 4, Dalton Schultz. He's only 27 and is coming off a year where he put up the second most yards of his career, 635, and the highest yards per reception he's posted, 10.8, on the 4th fewest targets he's had over the last 4 seasons between Houston and Dallas. 22 touchdowns in the last 4 years since he became a full-time starter, including back-to-back 5-touchdown seasons the last 2 seasons, and he offers this offense a third receiving threat out of the seam. He offers much more after the catch than Smythe or even Gesicki did. He had 261 yards after the catch last year and 378 in 2021. For perspective, Smythe had 139 last year and a career high of 165 in 2021. Gesicki had 85 yards after the catch last year and a career high of 230 in 2021 with Tua. He also gives his team a reliable threat in the red zone that you can lean on outside of fade routes to Tyreek. PFF projects him at $11 million per year. Spot Track projects him at $11.3 million per year. Offer him $9 to $10 million per year because of Florida State tax, and get it done, baby. I'm a fan of this move. I'm telling you, he's a beast. You saw how reliable he was for C.J. Stroud last year. We've been watching the clips. You've seen the route running ability. I'm down. Number 3, Christian Wilkins. We got to stay home, right? Bet on himself, and it paid off with him setting career highs in sacks, 9, and pressures, 61. We know how good of a run defender he can be when he's tasked with attacking the offensive line, gaps, and ball carriers. He's so versatile, being able to move around the defensive line inside out. Leader in the locker room and beloved by this fan base who feels like a core piece at the right price. Speaking of, his asking price is apparently around $24 million a year, with PFF projecting him at $22.1 million a year, and Spot Track projects him at about $20.2 million a year. If it was around $20.2 million a year, I think a deal would already be done. Now we saw the cap increase, and maybe a deal gets done now. But yeah, listen, I got him number 3 on the list because the familiarity with this scheme, with what we are going to be asking our guys on the front to do, and with this team. And again, he's a leader and he's a homegrown talent. It always sends a good message when you extend homegrown talent. Number 2, Connor Williams. Though he came from Dallas, he feels like a homegrown product as he was converted from left guard successfully by McDaniel and his staff into one of the top centers in the league since he arrived. Arguably the best run blocking center in the game when healthy right now. And you saw the production dip when he and Wynn were out of the lineup. Great pass blocker, getting better at snapping, but also his ability to ID and call protections pre-snap was massively instrumental in the success of this offense. And it was very noticeable when he was out, when that wasn't available. Okay. 2 ACL tears in his career so far. One last year and the other in 2019 make him a potential risk. But again, the reward when healthy is arguably the best center in football. PFF projects him at about $7.5 million per year. Spot Track has him at about $13.5 million per year. From what I understand, the asking price is far closer to Spot Track projections than it is closer to PFF's. So, because if it was more around $7.5 million like PFF projected, a deal would be done by now. Okay? So let's be honest here. And then, listen, we know how good he is. I get the injuries. The reason why he's so high in this list is because of how good he is. He's arguably the best center in football when he's in this offense and healthy. Number 1, it's my boy Robert Hunt, the biggest mauler on this team and the best hit on the offensive line the Dolphins have had in the draft since they took Laramie Tunsil. I've wanted a deal done with him since last season because I knew we'd be sitting here. Has he been named to a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro? No, but his play is damn well on that level, which I forecasted on this channel right after we drafted him. 6'6", 335 pounds, but has no problem with great footwork, destroys defenders at the second level, swallows power rushers, and mirrors athletic rushers well as too. Can be downright dominant and nasty at times in the run game. Spot Track projects him at $11.8 million. PFF projects him at about $17.5 million per year, and I think he's going to get paid $15+ million per year, which is why the deal might not get done with Miami. But I said last year I would have pivoted to him instead of Christian Wilkins when we realized we didn't have anything done. It's going to be a sad day if we lose Robert Hunt. I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of this guy. Big fan. And he's just a beast. He's a mauler. Watching a core piece like that go would not be easy. Get him done, Greer. Get him done. All right? Get him done. And I say all that to say this too. I say all that to say this. We saw how instrumental it was having that offensive line shored up. Just look at the 70-point game. We know too, if you watch the film, if you watch his strengths, it's not so much about the tackles for him. It's about having that interior shored up for him. And letting a guy walk like this is such, we have so many questions. We got a left tackle that could retire after this year. Austin Jackson. Yeah, we signed him to a great friendly deal, but that's because we haven't seen it consistently enough. He's banged up almost every year. And that interior is all over the place. Wynn's not signed. Connor's not signed. And Robert's not signed. And it's projecting that Liam Eichenberg might be starting at right guard or center. God help us. I don't think center. I think it'll be right guard. So, I don't know. Finally here, check this out. What Florio had to say on McDaniel's hot seat when asked about it, a topic we've talked about on this channel.
The one thing we never know about the hot seat is the temperament of the person who controls the flame. What's the owner going to do? And one of the problems with being competitive but not a high-end contender is you may get an owner who thinks, and I could do better. We have flaws that aren't being addressed. We have a coach who's taking us to solid regular season, playoff contention. We get in and we go 1-out. Now, Tyreek Hill has already said no excuses this year. 2022, it was Tua's hurt. 2023, it was we stepped into the open-air meat freezer in Kansas City. No excuses this year, but there very well could be some other excuse. But the reality is, whatever the other excuse is, it can't be an excuse. They have to find a way through it. And that's really the question. How many years of, hey, we had a great regular season and we lost in the wild card round of the playoffs will be too many years for the liking of owner Stephen Ross, who is getting into his 80s. And at some point, many of these owners are inclined, I think, to approach things the way Leon Hess once did. Remember when Leon Hess fired, I think it was Pete Carroll? Leon Hess knew he only had so many spins left around the globe, or around the sun, the globe around the sun. I don't know. Something like that. I'm no astronomy expert, but the world is round. I'll at least agree to that, which for some reason is at times in debate. But as you're getting closer and closer to the end, sometimes you're willing to do desperate things. And if Stephen Ross just decides, I really like this guy, Mike McDaniel, and he's got a quirky personality, he's very authentic, but he's just not getting us to where we need to be, that's for the owner to decide. Remember, everybody in the organization can be fired except the owner. If anybody were to be fired in Miami over the past 10 years who hasn't been, it would be the owner. But sorry, Dolphins fans, you're stuck with the guy who refuses. Dan Marino told us this 2 weeks ago. Stephen Ross refuses to go back to the uniforms that everybody wants. Everybody in the world could want the throwback uniforms, as long as the owner wants the ones that he designed, or at least were designed on his watch. Those stay. As long as he wants the coach in place, the coach stays. The moment he wants to make a change, the change is made, regardless of what anyone else thinks.
And, listen, what I'll add to this is I've said, if we don't win a playoff game this year, Greer and McDaniel could be out of here. That is a very realistic possibility and something I've said. You could have, if we underperform this year, or, we don't get it done in big games, and Tua doesn't get it done in big games again, and McDaniel feels the pressure of his job, what if McDaniel turns around and says, hey, McVay did it with Goff. What if he turns around and says, hey, I've got this guy to as high as I can. I need to go and get my own guy now. It's a real possibility. It is a real possibility. Either way, it's going to be an interesting season, and it's going to be an interesting weekend. Smash the like button. Man, almost 300 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Appreciate everyone who donated today. Rhino, Scorpion King, 1017 Man, Michelle, thank you so much. And I will see all of you guys on the next one. I hope you enjoyed the free agent list. Please smash this like button. Smash it, smash it, smash it. I want as many Dolphin fans as possible to see this, because these are the informative videos they need to see. Fins up all day, every day, until Margaritaville sends a cease and desist our way. Take it easy.